What if I told you the internet was just another computer?
Yeah.
Right?
So many tubes and trucks. And don't click on links and go to the website yourself. And no, Microsoft is not calling to ask for your password. And no, neither is anyone in IT, right?
Yeah, they're not sending you a text.
Especially not one with a Russian country code. Somebody's like, is this legit? I'm like, what's that email say? They're like, blah, 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 .ru. It is not legit. Are you doing business in Russia? Because there's two answers, no or illicitly, and I'm probably in deep trouble with an agency.
It's a scam.
It is not a scam. Why would someone want to scam me, Jermaine? And on the internet service, one of the trusted things of today's society.
This is episode 727 of AV Week. On this episode, is your network up for enterprise workloads? Command and control. Imagine if mission-critical systems actually worked together and worked for you. And fun, we might even talk about a 0-day for Microsoft SharePoint.
This is AV Week, episode 727, recorded Friday, July 25th. Security risks. This is AV Week, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the AV industry. I am not Tim Albright. Tim's on family vacation, hopefully sans National Lampoon in terms of European vacation. And in fact, thanks to the magic of editing, by the time you're hearing this, I will be out on vacation. So let's just jump right into some quick AV turnarounds, upcoming trade shows, and Google killing something else. We start at AV Magazine talking about the reconstruction of the Tomorrowland stage. A side note, Tomorrowland is an EDM, electric dance music concert event, not the Disney Park thing or the Brad Bird film. Just 48 hours before the festival was supposed to begin, a fire severely damaged the main stage. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and a major effort in constructing a replacement stage was completed in just over a day. Downsized from 160 meter wide to 70 meters, but it's still an impressive feat in terms of AV projects and definitely worth checking out. Speaking of projects, or rather projectors, Panasonic's plans to sell their projector business to the Oryx Corporation has collapsed. In a story from SEN, they discuss how the company was supposed to launch in April of this year, but the deal has fallen through. Their plans moving forward is to grow the Panasonic Projector and Display Corporation as a wholly owned subsidiary of Panasonic Connect. CEO Taka Uchida assures stakeholders that this move will have no impact on their operations. CEDIA Expo and Commercial Integrator Expo are co-locating once more in Denver, taking place from September 3rd through the 6th. It's the third year that CIX combines their efforts with the residential show, featuring over 300 top exhibitors showing off the latest in smart home, luxury audio, lighting, and a lot more. Group VP of CEDIA, Jason McGraw, ensures that because of the unique pairing between residential and commercial, there's something for everyone. And if you want more insights on CEDIA Expo and the residential channel in general, check out our Resi Week series with Matt Scott. And finally, Google is killing another project. Look it up. This happens a lot, sadly. This time they are getting rid of the short links, what you might have seen as a goo.gl. They will stop working sometime in late August. Some of us remember the old days where character limits were a very serious thing, and sites like TinyURL were essential for business or even, just a tweet. Google says that when users click on a shortened link, it will now warn them that this probably won't work in the near future. So if you've got any of those lying around on your website or anywhere else, now might be a good time to switch over. That's it for the news this week. After the break, we'll have some actual experts talking to Patrick Norton from CTI about topics important to the AV industry. This is AV Week.
Hey listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.
Welcome to AV Week, episode 727, recorded on July 25th, 2025. I'm Patrick Norton, in for Tim Albright, who is exploring the joys of a full-on family vacation. Joining us today is Samantha Potter at Allen Heath. She watches over the development of commercial audio and installation markets at Allen Heath and is known as, I quote, the Empress of Install.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. That is my title. So
it's a good title. We also have Jennifer Weaver, host of AVNation's Career Mastermind, Business Development Manager at Laya Technologies. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Patrick, this time. I'm usually used to looking at Tim, but this is great.
Well, it's a change, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And Danny Hayasaka, Senior Director of Marketing and Emerging Technology over at Call One and Hello Direct. Welcome to the show, everybody, and my apologies for one of the more awkward introductions we've had in a long time. Commercial Integrator says weak networks are the root of all evil. Well, they titled it "Why Robust Networks Are Key to Enterprise-Grade Projects," and instead of basically talking about massive multi-gigabit networking, it was mostly talking about security, scalability, and being comprehensive in the sense of design and management, being able to grow over time. I'm going to throw this out to everyone. Whoever leaps on it first can start. Is this profoundly obvious, or is this profoundly insightful at this point?
I think it's obvious, right? So this is a very obvious thing. Obviously, the pandemic flipped everything on its head, and so you have a lot of organizations now that have distributed workforces. They're all over the place, but they're all still now heavily engaged in using video to collaborate with each other. And so having that ability to scale that, to manage that remotely is really paramount. And there's so many organizations that don't look at that. They're looking at that piece of hardware, that new video bar or that new speaker, that microphone that's going to make the room sound great, without really tackling what it takes to get that audio and that video through to the other places where who they're collaborating with. So I think it's something that they need to consider.
Yeah, it's just one of those topics that it feels like yes, obvious. Certainly, I think we were talking before we hit record that it's just becoming one of these things where IT teams and AV teams are sort of like forced to interact more and more and more, or like the AV team is sort of coming in and integrating it, and then it's up to the IT team to actually manage it and sort of like do the day-to-day kind of service of it. And so the idea, I think it's just better the more that we're able to talk to one another. And these enterprise networks, there are still plenty of projects where they're not on an enterprise network. But for those that are, I think that idea of scalability in particular is very important. And then anytime we're connecting anything to the internet, security is, of course, more and more of an issue. We could really just like completely shoot off on some other thing about just security and whether it exists and what it is. And, and we may swing back around to it when we hit the Microsoft 0 day. But I think the scalability thing is particularly important because we have to start. Like, it's just more and more IT stuff. Like, it becomes difficult for us to scale up on the AV side. It's difficult for us to scale up without immediately just involving more IT infrastructure. Like, I guess we could just chain a bunch of switches together and that would technically be a scale. But best practice, I guess that's up for decision or argument.
The one thing I think that we all need to consider, whether we're integrators or the customer or even the manufacturer, is who's asking the questions to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done for the network to handle the AV equipment. And from the AV standpoint, is the network able to handle it? So it's communication. Stop being in a silo, I think, and we all can be ready for it if we're talking and asking the right questions and asking our customer as the AV to say, hey, can you talk to your IT people, your network people? Can it handle? And if not, what do they need to make sure it can handle? Just like anything, it's communication, talking, not a phone like the younger generation does right now.
They're not even on a regular call. They're just video. They're just video. They're video calling exclusively. I'm not even sure they know how to just do a quiet phone call themselves. So, also something I don't think I remember seeing in the article, but something that comes up a lot lately and is more and more and more is this like idea of redundancy and like how much redundancy you want and how far that extends into the network. That continues to come up. I would be curious if you guys are seeing that same thing or having those kinds of conversations as well.
I mean, I think it's always interesting to look at. There's one thing in terms of redundancy. You're a corporation versus it's a command and control center that's mission critical, or versus
Yeah.
broadcast environments versus entertainment environments. And I had a funny conversation where there was an internal debate at the organization I work with, and somebody was like, "You don't seem to understand. You see, we do this live, and we don't get to do it a second time if it doesn't work the first time." And it's,
Mhm.
for people that are running, and I may be slowly segueing into our second story today, for people who are running, mission critical environments, redundancy may be, part of the foundation of the way they set everything up. But I think once you get past that area, redundancy becomes something that people think about after the first time they discover they don't have redundancy.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
that also may be my paranoia kicking in there.
I mean, earned paranoia. I think that's completely appropriate. So it's just interesting, especially because I'm with Alan Heath and my like history in AVIT and IT, but like also like live production and entertainment and hospitality stuff. Like redundancy is just becoming like more and more and more of a thing because so much of it is mission critical, but then also like things like their emergency systems are running through equipment, and so like they have to have a certain amount of redundancy. Or like even some places surprise me. I was helping some gentleman was outfitting this like auto auction house, and redundancy was very important to them. Like it needed to have it. Like we had the discussion of like, how many nines do you want on this thing of redundancy? And they like, it was basically, they could have no downtime. And it was just like, like I'd never really considered like a car auto place needing it, but all right. Yeah.
Well, the fight for the auction houses, where especially some of them are massive, they're national,
Mm.
and the bidding
Mm.
gets vicious, and
Yeah.
some of the people they're selling to will sue at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then when we talk about like redundant networks, anytime anybody asks, like when I'm going and doing like, I'm training, and this is outside of the US, I go all over the place talking to people about like our stuff and projects and things like that. And whenever anybody asks like, oh, well, like, how are you guys handling redundancy? Or like, how much redundancy are we talking here? My question is always like, what do you mean by redundancy? What do you mean by redundancy? Because I can have like 3 or 4 different levels of this. Are you talking about like the program material redundancy? Are you talking about like internally within every engine's redundancy, power redundancy, like, or network redundancy, or control redundancy? Like there's so many different ways that we could look at it, that a truly redundant system, I mean, a truly, like, it's just like, do you have a second power grid available? Like, because that's where it basically ends. It's like, we have coal, and that's that's generating electricity for us. And then this other switch is running off of solar power. And so, and then down from there. So
Shifting gears slightly, AV Network posted this week about open standards and mission critical environments, command and control interoperability. And it's essentially about, command and control centers, mission critical environments. It is everything from, okay, I have the operations center for a county in the case of an emergency or a weather emergency or whatever's going on. I think a lot about transportation, energy, all these places where if something goes sideways, a lot of people get in trouble really quickly. And also your business model may be impacted. And it was interesting because at first I thought it was kind of a call to IPMX, but then it gets very, very broad and very, very detailed. And the kind of walk away or the takeaway is open standards matter. I'm quoting here because they give organizations more control over how their systems evolve. And I thought about this, and again, going to toss this out to the team here, but we have a lot of I'm going to lock you down into my platform until hell freezes over is kind of a core AV business concept, which is a nightmare as far as I'm concerned. If I have friends that are firefighters that do wildfire, basically coordinate the response to wildfires all over the western United States, and my nightmare is they can't get onto a radio to talk to someone, or the license for something wears out, or the support isn't in place, or any of a number of things I can either dream up or they've given me examples of. Is there a hope that the mission critical environments, in particular, or tools that are used there, and might they actually start more rapidly moving into open standards? Is the AV industry going to embrace that? Because there's hints of it I see all over the place. Starting maybe with Zoom and Teams rooms interoperating without emotional trauma, which is something that's a relatively recent development.
I mean, living in South Florida, and I think Danny, up on the coast also, mission critical, when you look at that in general, it's very important to us, right? We've got hurricanes that come through, even though we can watch them and we can see them. I want everything to work. I want everybody to have as much information as they possibly can to be able to get the information out to us as fast as they can. Yes, we can see them, we can watch them. Hurricanes do have a tendency to change their mind at some point. And over the years, we've seen them get worse. We've seen them expand. So the ability to have those mission critical solutions and those situations talk, communicate with everything, for me is extremely important, just as a individual living in a state that has natural disasters, where if something goes down there that doesn't work, my mind goes to, I'm not getting the information that I need as a person to be able to ensure I'm safe and my family's safe. So from that standpoint, they need to talk, they need to communicate. And if it has to start in mission critical solutions, then so be it. So then we can expand it to the rest of what we do within the industry.
Yeah, because that's something that we work on with organizations everywhere. And not so much mission critical, but in the eyes of some organizations and businesses, a particular meeting space might be mission critical because they're making really significant decisions about which direction they're going to move, or about personnel. And so it's important that their systems work. And that's a challenge. You hit the nail on the head in terms of these disparate platforms, and they're not open standards currently. And there's ways to get them to work together, but understanding that upfront from the client, because we've had meetings where we go in and they tell us, yeah, we're teams only, we're 100% teams. And then you set up this entire system to support that particular platform only. And then they have how do we join Zoom? And you're like, you never mentioned that. You never said it once. Oh, well, we have our board meeting, all our board directors, they show up every once a month only, and they do the Zoom meeting. And you're like, well, that would have been a critical piece of information that you could have shared prior to all the hundreds and hundreds of questions that we've had, all the discovery sessions that we've had to identify the different use cases in this space. And they don't share that with you until later. And then, of course, as you all know, it's not that simple. I mean, it is, but it isn't to get these different platforms to be used in the same space. Well, can we just flip the switch? I'm like,
Yeah. less
Is
so.
there a plug-in for that?
Yeah. So those are the things that we encounter on a daily basis.
From a manufacturing standpoint, like, I love non-proprietary protocols, because that makes like R&D about 1 billion times more easy. There's less hoops to jump through, and it also ends up just being so much more affordable to the end customer and to distributorship. Like, it's just that, for me, feels like it's always like that's going to be the best option. And as far as AV goes, like, I love some of the protocols that we're using. There's certainly not a standard. There's a couple of companies that are really vying to be that standard. But I'm not sure it's ever a good idea. I worry about a future in which a proprietary protocol ends up being our standard, because now we are shackled. We are shackled to this. And if something happens, like, I don't know, like a global pandemic, or like a fire takes out a factory, then there's a huge whatchamacallit in the funnel. Like, there's a stop, like there's an issue, right? Because now this one thing is stopping multiple other manufacturers from being able to make things, and that's very problematic. And so, hey, yeah, I love non-proprietary protocols, would love a standard. I would love to see AV standardized in the way that at least like IT has, where we're all like, all right, well, we're going to do these things, and they've existed since the 90s, and it's been rock solid. So we're going to keep doing that. And like, great. Yes, let's do that. But we can't even decide on like a cable termination. So it's,
I still laugh because I had a video production device, which shall remain nameless, and they had a proprietary codec, which required a very expensive, very slow tool to turn it into like a video format that almost anything else could use. And the CTO was very adamant that this was a superior encoding solution, and then immediately went into what I will affectionately call full gibberish mode. And another one of the members of his teams was sitting there, and I'm like, so this isn't about you not wanting to pay the MPEG-4 license. And the person, but he kept going without acknowledging me, and the person behind him jerked like somebody had yanked on the strings on his shoulders. And I'm like, okay, so at least I know that whether I like it or not, I'm buying 5 copies of an incredibly expensive proprietary tool from a third party to use this, and now I know why. But it's I don't know. It's frustrating, especially as you point out. I still laugh because I have a friend who's like, we use Microsoft because it's secure, because it's acceptable. And it's not one of those filthy, nasty open source tools that can be violated at any time. And I'm like, that's not my experience with open source, but
group effort.
but there's someone else checking the code. It's not just someone saying, no, it's secure. Which is my awkward segue into our final story. Microsoft SharePoint servers are under attack because of a major security flaw. The folks at The Verge did a great write-up on this. July 18th, iSecurity identified a vulnerability, and this is kind of nasty because essentially, if you don't patch this, patch is available. Get out there and patch your servers. It'll allow people to steal keys on certain on-premises versions of SharePoint, and then even after the server is rebooted, they can still impersonate users or services. And because everything in the Microsoft universe kind of backbones off of SharePoint, anybody trying to sneak into your network, they can obviously, because it's SharePoint, steal data. They can also potentially harvest passwords, move across the breach network, escalate to different services or pivot to different services that you run through SharePoint, including, Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive. So 1, if you're running SharePoint servers, please check for patches. 2, rather than discussing this particularly nasty patch, unless anyone's compelled, should people automatically be thinking, what's the worst case scenario, with my services and preparing for breaches and assuming they're inevitable? Or does this feel like yet another, this is an extremely rare example of something terrible happening, this week?
It's like security is typically number one priority, especially for enterprise customers and regardless of the industry, because their data is valuable and their information is valuable. That's how they run their business is on this data. So security should be top of mind. And especially when you do have, like from my world, when you have people using Teams and Zoom, but during those Teams and Zoom meetings, they are accessing and tapping into their OneDrive, their Outlook to get data to share into the meeting. And so they are accessing these things during that meeting. So understanding where someone can access or breach is really important. So, but that's like I said, from our perspective. So it should be top of mind for everybody.
Personally, I assume nothing is safe. Everything's open and everybody has everything about me. And I periodically get a letter from some company or service letting me know that continues to be true. And if I just kind of go through my life understanding that eventually these social security numbers we've got are just going to be completely useless, then I feel mentally better. So, and just like continue. And that doesn't mean like throw security to the wind. Like just if everything's a problem, nothing's a problem. I don't mean that. I just mean like putting that anxiety in like a little package and say, I'll address you later, and always make it like keeping, in mind your security. And across like different companies, there's like, I have different protocol, security protocols, and my gosh, it's so annoying. But I completely understand what they're doing. Why we don't let certain people have access to certain things. But honestly, it starts to become a conversation of when that security sort of like crosses a line, and it's becomes so inconvenient. It becomes so troublesome that you default to something wildly unsecure to make like sharing things more easily. Like I've had to do that, previously. I'm just like, I really need to get like this PowerPoint that I explicitly made for people outside the company to people outside the company. And doing that is like, I guess I got to do, what is it?
Dropbox.
Dropbox or,
Google Drive.
yeah, there's one that starts with like a we or something. That's what I was.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like,
Yeah.
like you don't even have to make an account for that. You're just like, yeah, just upload it here. Here's a link for 3 days. And like, so you end up defaulting to that. And so all that to say, I don't really have the answer other than it's going to continue to be part of our conversation. Well, even for really small companies, I know we've been talking about enterprise level, but like even like really, really small businesses, because so much technology and presence on the web is required for you to be like, even like keep your lights on. We have to keep this in mind and be like respectful of not only of our own and our business's IP and privacy, but also like all of our customers. And so I wish we would take more of a European Union style approach to privacy and use some of all these tools that we've got. But I can't save Microsoft from themselves. So,
but when you look at it too, the younger generation, and I'm not saying that it was a younger person because I don't know, but when you look at this and you say the younger generation, they spend so much time on phones, on their computers, learning different things that the ability for our information to get quote unquote hacked or leaked or whatever, it is going to happen because you have potentially some kid sitting in his basement going, oh, I wonder if I can. And it's just a random lot of times things that have happened. So the security is needed. I get it. Yes. But like you said, is my social security number really safe? I live in South Florida. My identity has been stolen at least twice. You never get a new social security number. You just now have to have it watched forever. So it's the same thing. Like you might not be able to get a new infrastructure. You just have to manage it and watch it closer if things like this continue to happen, which they're going to. As everything evolves and changes, everything is going to evolve and change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everybody's like approach to technology is also changing generationally. So like I'm a millennial and I feel like we understand technology like very intimately, like thoroughly, because when we were growing up with it, you had to understand it differently. But like Generation Alpha and Z, they don't know that world. And so their sort of idea or separation of themselves from the technology doesn't exist. It's not, when I was growing up, the internet was a place you went to. Like you had a room and you went there and you got on the internet and it was great. But like they don't have that. And so it's completely blurred the lines. And so like a lot of them don't even, they have to learn how to use a computer in the way that like, my parents or my grandparents had to learn how to use it. They're having to learn to do that, like what a file tree like sort of is, or if like how that works, and they have to learn it where we didn't. So you have to like kind of even approach those conversations differently depending on the age group, like what their comfortability is with it, what their access is to it, how much they're on it. I mean, exactly like you were saying, Jennifer.
I'm a Gen Xer. I remember the little AOL guy walking across.
Yeah.
That's me. Yeah. You've got mail.
I've run into people across all generations, who went from, like my parents who had no computer involvement, especially my mom, until she was 60, Gen Xers who were either sort of in it at the DOS level or engaged with it as they were forced to by the companies they were working for. And then we look at like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and they're completely immersed in some of the most sophisticated networking and communications technology in history. And they have if they're not nerds, they don't really have any underlying understanding of everything that goes into it. And it's fascinating to watch when you watch someone I know recently who's, fantastic video editor, great videographer, very sophisticated, very professional, and explaining to them like why their internet wasn't working. And basically it was like, okay, we're going to go from you've had broadband your entire life, as long as you can remember, to having to explain that like there's an IP network behind that, and then behind that there's switches and backbones and communications, and it's not necessarily your system or their server, but it could be something in connection, and this is how we run a trace route. And I was just kind of like, part of me was like, oh, they don't understand, and part of me is like, well, how often do most people run into solving these questions if they're not pulling cables and dealing with servers and stuff like that? Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question looking forward. I don't know. It
should almost be a requirement that these younger generations go through the process and like follow the signal, and so that they understand how that works, and then maybe they get a better understanding of where there could be deficiencies, or where there could be attacked. If they understand, like I said, follow the signal.
Yeah, what if I told you the internet was just another computer?
Yeah.
Right?
So many tubes and trucks. Yeah. And don't click on links, and go to the website yourself. And no, Microsoft is not calling to ask for your password. And no, neither is anyone in IT, right?
Yeah, they're not sending you a text.
Especially not one with a Russian, a country code. Or that's my personal favorite. Somebody's like, is this legit? I'm like, what's that email say? They're like, blah, 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 .ru. It is not legit. Are you doing business in Russia? Because there's two answers, no or illicitly, and I'm probably in deep trouble with an agency. Now that we've devolved it to, hacking via text message, which actually is really alarmingly effective, which is incredibly depressing. Danny, where can people find you if they want to hear more about what you're saying? Where should people search for you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can just search for Danny Hayasaka. I'll come up everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I got a YouTube channel. I even have Instagram and Facebook. I'm an old guy on Facebook. I have X, but I'm not very, I'm not on that as much as LinkedIn and YouTube. Those are my things.
Jennifer, where can folks find you these days? Where would you prefer they look for you on the internet?
I have lots of things going on. LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn, Jennifer Weaver on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest and quickest way to get me. And then I am also part of AVNation. So I am the host of AV Career Mastermind. So take a look, take a listen. If you're looking for a job, wanting to find a job, let me know. Love to talk to you. So that is me, and Laya Technologies also. So.
And Samantha.
Yeah, if I'm available on a platform, at Potter Audio will usually get me there. And really just like a lot of Alan and Heath stuff. If you go on there on the YouTube page or anywhere, you end up seeing me. Like I'm just kind of around. So not hard to get a hold of. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the normal places at Potter Audio is.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone who's been listening. And one last reminder, this is AV Week, episode 727. And if you want to find more, do yourself a favor, search for AV Week on your favorite podcatching tool.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.